Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee and all members of the Portfolio Committee, Deputy Minister, Honorable Beneswat, the chairpersons and CEO of our statutory bodies and council, guests who are joining us today, and the senior management of our department. We present this budget vote today on a day coinciding with George Slovo's birthday, a distinguished stalwart and icon of our liberation. To honor his sacrifice, we must build brick by brick a South Africa that is truly united, non-racial, non-sexist, equal and prosperous. As the department, we will make our contribution in cementing the vision of South Africa that leaves no one behind, as clearly articulated in the 2023 State of the Nation's address by His Excellency President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa. During this Africa Month, we reaffirm our commitment to a better Africa and a better world, which can be concretized through a world-class infrastructure that crisscrosses Africa. Honorable Chairperson, we are working hard to reposition the department. The department coordinates infrastructure development and is central to South Africa's economic recovery and reconstruction plan through championing the implementation of the catalytic strategic integrated project. Our objective is to use the property and infrastructure sector to build assets, deliver climate resilient smart infrastructure, facilitate spatial transformation, support economic empowerment, and drive job creation. In the year ahead, we will robustly coordinate the provision of a social facilitation framework to mitigate against community unrest, which delays construction projects. We're determined to enhance the participation of communities in projects, drive localization of supply, and involve locals in the maintenance of property ecosystem. We are resolute that benefit of our programs should go direct to the youth, women, military veterans, disabled people in the whole country. The construction branch will work closely with the Infrastructure South Africa on unclogging delayed projects. Attention will be given to contract management through capacity building, risk management, and continuous monitoring of projects. We have introduced the war room approach, and we're establishing the project management units to fast track the implementation of projects and reduce the number of projects that are stalled. We're going forward and we're introducing the 10 key delivery method and establishing panels of contracts and consultants to avoid prolonged procurement processes. The department is also addressing vacancy rates which impede the capacity to effectively deliver projects on time and on budget. No matter the odds, we're determined to close down the curtain on the history of a department being associated with corruption, ineptitude, and poor infrastructure delivery. We will be regular on project visits, monitoring and ensuring that we unblock service delivery challenges. South Africa must become a construction site again. In the same manner that we use the construction sector to cushion our country from the effect of the global financial crisis and build world-class stadia in the 2010 World Cup, we must use the infrastructure and property sector toward the reconstruction and recovery of our economy post the COVID-19 era. ISA will continue to serve as our special purpose vehicle that will focus on ensuring that we have a well-packaged project that are financially viable, catalytic in impact, and are delivered on time with all stakeholders meeting their commitment. The department does not take for granted our client departments, and in this regard, we will be paying greater attention to client care. Our supply chain, legal and other line function units, as well as departments, will meet regularly to address all transversal challenges. The department must not be a soft target of unscrupulous service providers who at times cheat the department through shoddy workmanship and project stoppages, claiming liquidation of companies. Equally, we will ensure that our programs contribute toward transforming the construction, maintenance, and management of infrastructure sector in the country. We must address the imbalance that persists from the misrule of the era of apartheid colonialism. To address the impact of floods in KwaZulu-Natal, 18 land parcels were released by the department for the purposes of accommodating communities, including those affected by the 2022 floods. At the start of March this year, 4 land parcels were released to Msunduze local municipality for the purpose of accommodating communities, including those displaced by floods. In support of the country's initiative to restore dispossessed land to rightful owners, 221 land parcels have been released to the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development for the transfer to the approved land claimant. The target of 10,000 hectares have thus far been significantly exceeded. Approximately 1,576 hectares is earmarked to be released during the financial year of 2023-2024. In support of human settlement development, 44 land parcels have been released to the Housing Development Agency to fast-track development of houses. In the 2023-2024 financial year, approximately 6,320 hectares is earmarked to be released for human settlement purposes. To address land risk distribution and to address the skewed patterns of ownership, 125 land parcels was released from the department to support subsistence farmers and ensure food security. The issue of land, ukubuyiswa komhlaba, kumele sikusheshise. Umhlaba siwunikezele bonke abantu, including labo abasemakhaya angeke baba namali yokuthenga amaplazi ngokwa. An estimated additional 50 land parcels are earmarked to be released within the 2023-24 financial year. In support of socio-economic programs of our government, 11 land parcels were released for a variety of Central road construction projects. In addition, 24 land parcels were released for the registration of ESCOM servitude for the construction of generations, transmission, and distribution power line, especially to ensure distribution of electricity to the poor. A further 6 land parcels are being considered for release to ESCOM during this financial year. The department also processed 27 requests from ESCOM for expropriation of private land parcels to enable the construction of key transmission power lines in Limpopo. 23 requests for expropriation of private land to enable transmission of electricity will be considered and processed during this financial year. In addition, a further 49 land parcels were also released in transferring the custodianship of 19 land ports of entry to the Border Management Authority. The transfer of the remaining 3 land parcels or land ports of entry to the Border Management Authority will be processed during this financial year. Approximately 2,230 hectares are earmarked to be released within this financial year. We're busy connecting rural communities through well-sized bridges, as the President announced. We will continue in working in partnership with the Department of Defense and Department of Transport, together with 6 provinces, to build well-sized bridges to connect communities in rural areas. For this project, 3.8 allocation is allocated for MTEF. During this financial year, 96 bridges at a cost of 1.1 billion will be constructed, 17 in KwaZulu-Natal, 17 in Eastern Cape, 17 in Northwest, 17 in Mpumalanga, 14 in Free State, and 17 in Mpumalanga. MECs from these provinces are watching and following us as we are working with them on this program. As part of the first phase of the Small Harbour Development Project, we have repaired and upgraded 13 proclaimed fishing harbors here in Western Cape, which has empowered over 100 SMMEs to the value of over 116 million. The next phase is to identify opportunities for establishment of small harbors in Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Northern Cape. Unlike the apartheid regime that focused on the coastline in Western Cape alone, we are focusing throughout the country. We welcome the participation of the Chinese government, who have pledged to sponsor us on feasibility studies in the 3 provinces. Through Infrastructure South Africa, we are implementing the Infrastructure Investment Plan as approved by Cabinet in May 2020, and enhancing the operation of Infrastructure Fund. In addition to what was reported in 2022, South Africa has amassed a pipeline of green hydrogen project with a value of over 300 billion, which are in project preparation stages. Among these projects is the Buku Bay Green Hydrogen project, which is situated in Northern Cape and has the potential to create 35,000 work opportunities when it commences. The Infrastructure Development Act provides for the Minister of Infrastructure to gazette infrastructure projects that are economically significant and have social impact. To date, 88 social SIPs have been gazetted, covering foundational infrastructure network in energy, water and sanitation, transport, as well as digital communication infrastructure. The SIPs also cover human settlement, agriculture, and agro-processing. We wish to update this House and the South Africans that the project sponsors and owners have been working with the department, and the progress ends so far include the following. The total value of project completed is 21.4 billion, mainly in roads, energy, and human settlement. Total value of project currently under construction is 313.5 billion. Project in procurement stands at 295.2 billion. The energy sector infrastructure project pipeline registered with ESA include 180 billion of embedded generation investment program, 50 billion of the risk mitigation independence power producer program. ISA has already unlocked, as per the provision of the IDA, 225 megawatts for SANEC of approximately 16 billion. When it comes to infrastructure fund project pipeline, we can report that for the first time in history, the budget facility infrastructure has surpassed its target during the window 6. In December 2022, the National Treasury confirmed approval of blended finance projects through the BFI process that include bulk water project with a total project value of 57.7 billion. The fiscal support as approved by Treasury amount to 21.7 billion rand. Outside these projects, the infrastructure fund is earmarking a total of 9 projects amounting to 45 billion that are at an advanced stage, and these will be submitted to the BFI Window 7 for approval. These projects include the 6 points of entry programs, container terminals upgrading, and human settlement projects. We welcome the announcement in the State of the Nation's address by His Excellency, the President Ramaphosa, that ISA has been allocated 600 million in the MTEF for project preparation, especially focusing in rural and under-resourced areas. The department, working together with the Ministry of Electricity and supported by the National Treasury's Government Technical Advisory Center, the GTEC, is finalizing the first request for proposal under the Integrated Renewable Energy and Resource Efficiency Program. The RFP will be published by the end of June 2023. This will be followed by convening of bidders conference for interested parties. This will be the largest program for procurement of renewable energy resource efficiency on the African continent. It will introduce up to 3,740 megawatts of equivalent capacity through renewable energy. Envisaged socio-economic benefits include 1.3 direct contribution to the GDP, the creation of over 13,000 new small enterprises, and an estimated of 503,000 jobs, together with skilling opportunities. When it comes to construction management, our branch in the construction project management is responsible for delivering of accommodation needs for the department and the user department. In the financial year of 2022-2023, 3.5 billion was spent on contractors and consultants for infrastructure projects. Approximately 95 infrastructure projects were completed and 65 sites were handed over to contractors. We can report that among these projects, we include Napa Bay Police Station in Namakwa District, Northern Cape. Emanguza Police Station in Umkanyagude is completed, and the construction of Jersey barriers is going to start soon. The department's ICT Disaster Recovery Center was completed. Komati Port Police Station in Ehlanzeni, Mpumalanga has also been completed. Further, the department has identified 50 significant projects in terms of budget allocation and significance. These projects will be closely monitored to drive performance and meet delivery deadlines. These include the Durban High Court in KwaZulu-Natal, Bakerstop Correctional Services in Jokabi, Eastern Cape, Grooteskill Estate Heritage in Western Cape. In terms of planned construction project, in this financial year, the target is to hand over 168 infrastructure sites for construction, complete 109 infrastructure projects, and deliver 154 design for user department. We are improving the delivery capacity. Working with the Department of Social Development, we continue to release properties to serve as shelters for victims of gender-based violence. The department will prepare and release more properties this year across the country, and the Deputy Minister will further elaborate on this later. Honorable members, the leasing portfolio has grown dramatically due to unavailability of ready-to-use government properties. Over the years, user department preferred to use leased properties, resulting to the ballooned budget of over 5 billion per annum. To reduce department's dependency on leasing portfolio, we are enhancing the refurbishment, operate, and transfer program. We cannot continue to depend to the private sector. We must have government properties refurbished and then handed over later to government. In terms of the top 20 compliance Q4 report, the initial leases were 571 and have been reduced to 132. The department has achieved a total reduction of 273 million for 330 leases through negotiating. And this tells you the amount which the private sector charge us, which if you compare to the private sector, what they lease to others, company to company, is very less to what they charge us as government. A target for this financial year is the reduction of 200 million. With regard to maintenance of infrastructure, it is a fact that poor maintenance of infrastructure compromises our economy and poses a risk to the lives of the people. The ring-fencing of budget for infrastructure maintenance through the National Treasury now requires implementation with precision. We intend allocating maintenance team and conducting planned maintenance to each client department and submit a quarterly report to accounting officers of each department. Together with the Deputy Minister, we are setting new standards to inform service level agreement with lease building and focus on maintenance, as well as enhancing our building to be smart and energy efficient. The department is determined to reduce the over-reliance on reactive maintenance by implementing preventative contracts through term contracts, as well as total facility management contracts. There are 3 total management contracts for Batupile House, Vatas, and 1 military hospital that are currently ongoing. They have been in place for 3 years rather, and anyone who have gone to this facility will attest to the high standard that is preserved. The total number of term contracts awarded in 2022-23 are 163. The number of conditional assessment completed in the previous financial year was 107 on prioritized properties, and 140 conditional assessment were completed on critical components. In the current financial year, a total of 15 total facility management contracts are projected at an estimated value of more than 434 million for over a period of 3 years. All total facility management companies are aligned and will be compelled to support SMMEs focused on the creation of jobs for women, youth, and disabled people. Conditional assessment will be carried out by a multidisciplinary technical team from a panel in place for an initial 82 facilities. Eradication of asbestos project is underway with the budget estimate of 10 million. The repair and follow-up maintenance of 110 water and waste water treatment facilities as identified by the Green Drop audit with a projected budget requirement of 250 over the medium-term expenditure framework. We cannot tolerate the invasion and extortion in construction sites. The Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime report revealed that extortion in 2019 led to the delay of 180 construction projects worth 63 billion rand in South Africa, and this cannot be tolerated. Criminal syndicates who sabotage the economy, impede the delivery of infrastructure, and obstruct job creation are nothing but enemies of the poor and our country. And therefore, we're pleased with the progress that is made by SAPS and will continue to work with SAPS in this regard. With regard to the development of skills in the built industry, in 2023-24, the department is awarding 100 bursaries across provinces for youth who will study built environment qualification at a value of 16 million. More needs to be done to address skill shortages, and the focus must be given to Black women, especially to ensure that young girls are empowered to enter this space. Through the Youth Professionals Program, 79 candidates will be recruited for 2023-24 financial year. Currently, a total number of 108 youth are employed under the Work Integrated Learning Program and Graduate Internship Program. In partnership with Bank Sita, the department employed.
I am aware, Minister, that this is your guidance, which you can publish it at the end. Have some that's why. Yes, please wrap up. And then
May I take this opportunity, Honorable House Chair, to present the budget allocation of 27.5 billion over the MTEF and 8.7 billion for 2023-2024. The main focus of this will be on expanded public works program, as well as facilitating the work that is done by Infrastructure South Africa. We have a number of projects.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you.
The Honorable Tabongwana.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister Sigalala, Honorable Deputy Minister Swartz, Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee of Public Works and Infrastructure, Honorable members in the chamber and on the virtual platform, acting DG of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, and your team, the CEOs, the chairpersons of the boards, and of the entities of this department. Distinguished guests, molweni nonke ngalemva kwemini kule nyanga yezwekazi i-Africa, Africa Month. This budget is occurring at an auspicious time as the country in 2024 will be reaching the 30 years of democracy under the ANC government. We check the 300 years of the apartheid colonial government. It has been a long walk with many trials, tribulations, and therefore we need to honor our leaders of the struggle who sacrificed their lives for our liberation. Our democracy has brought with it a much needed political freedom for the majority of the population, which were political and economically excluded in every sense through the 300 years of apartheid colonialism. The ANC government has ensured through its policies and programs that transformation can occur at all levels of society and has provided services which did not previously exist, and as well opened economic opportunities for the majority of the people. Kule mihla siyakwazi ukuthetha nge-services ezazingekho emvumelwano kuqumbu kwezalali ndandisuka kuzo before 1994. This budget vote of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure occurs at a critical time when the economy is recovering from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the effects of the devastating floods due to the incremental weather that engulfed some parts of the country. I think Minister has said so when you are speaking, that some of the programs that they are doing is to address the challenges of the devastating floods, especially in KZN. The ANC government had to once more extend support to many people that were displaced by the floods through the allocation of these land parcels, through putting people in halls, through the construction of bridges where bridges were damaged by the floods. The people of South Africa expect no less from a government that seeks transformation and the improvement of the people's lives. Due to the low economic growth and the effects of pandemic of the COVID-19, the ANC government adopted economic reconstruction and recovery plan, whose focus, amongst others, is the infrastructure development and job creation. Part of the implementation of the economic reconstruction and the recovery plan is within the scope of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure and its entities, which are the implementation arms of the departmental programs. This budget vote, amongst other priority programs, sets out in the programs for the implementation, as I indicated, infrastructure development and job creation. In this term, the sixth term, we have seen a progress in attempting to turn around the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure and ensure that all forms of corruption, maladministration are eliminated, to make sure that programs are implemented and financial controls restored, resulting in the department improving in its audit outcomes. Almost all the, in fact, 3 entities, they obtained clean audits, only one, which you all know that it is also on the road to clean audit, that is the IDT, which is in Kapoor. So we believe that that has been done through the programs that were implemented in the department to turn around the department. While steady progress has been made in terms of ensuring that the department is able to deliver on its program, as well as in the entities, much more still needs to occur to ensure that the entities implement the developmental objectives of the government, which are geared towards the transformation of our society and improving the lives of the people of South Africa. The extended public works program and repurposing of IDT, which is an important development entity, can be counted as major achievements in the past financial year. Still more needs to be done, Minister and Deputy Minister, and we know that this ANC government will not rest until the goals of transformation have been achieved. The development has 5 critical programs. The budget that the minister mentioned, 8, something billion. I don't want to call numbers in the wrong way. This budget reflects a 7.7% increase, which we appreciate. The bulk of the budget, what is good about this department is that the bulk of the budget is not taken to administration. So in this budget, only 6% can be attributed to administration, while 85% of the budget is geared towards transfers to entities and provinces, as well as municipalities as conditional grants for the implementation of critical social development program, which is the EPWP, which is continuing providing job opportunities and skilling artisans. But with the challenge that we have of the unemployment, we think that still more can be done. In terms of the administration, the department has been one of the traditional underspending departments due to vacancies, but we have seen that towards the end of the last year, some critical posts have been filled. We are therefore, Minister, looking forward in you ensuring that even in this year, critical posts are filled in the department so that we don't have acting. The entities under the department must strive to improve the corporate governance and financial control, as this will enable greater levels of performance and more efficient usage of the budget to execute developmental priorities programs of the government. The department is the custodian and the portfolio manager of the government's immovable assets, and it needs to enhance the value of the properties to ensure that this portfolio serves as the source of revenue of the government. One thing that we have raised, Minister and Deputy Minister, as the portfolio committee many a times, is the issue of maintenance. Yes, we have properties, but when it comes to maintenance, we don't have routine maintenance. We only do maintenance when it has arisen. I think we appreciate that you are going around, and recently you went to these houses that the ministers are occupying. We hope that with you doing that, routine maintenance will be done, and the department won't spend much if it is doing routine maintenance. Over the past year, Infrastructure South Africa was created and located within the department. The inclusion of Infrastructure South Africa in the Department of Public Works is important, as it is a critical vehicle for the coordination of infrastructure development and its associated job creation. There is already a memorandum of agreement between ISA, Development Bank of South Africa, and National Treasury, which spelled out the different functions of each to roll as a pipeline of blended finance projects. We appreciate the program that was mentioned by the president on the SONA, the Weli Size program. And we have seen the spin-off that came out of that program where kids could not go to school because of the river. We have seen Weli Size bridges being constructed to ensure that the children are able to cross the river to go to school. We have also seen this program in KZN, where the devastating floods damaged some of the bridges, the Weli Size bridges have been done. We appreciate that on the ANC government in delivering that through this department. The department needs to develop a number of pieces of legislation to guide its work and ensure accountability of department and its entities. This should commence with the public works bill that, as the portfolio committee, we have raised it several times, that we must ensure that this bill comes into. Legislation is also required in the case of PMTE to perform its function that it has been mandated to carry in relation to acquisition and disposal of property. As I close, the budget vote report has made many important observations and recommendations relating to entities, and these need to be followed up by the department as the implementation. The ANC supports budget vote number 13 of public works and infrastructure. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Bobwana. I now recognize Honorable Sefulu.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. Honorable House Chairperson, since the appointment of Minister Sihle Zikalala back in March, it is important for this House and South Africans at home to note that this minister is yet to attend a single portfolio committee meeting of Public Works and Infrastructure. Minister, the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is an enabling and coordinating department. As such, the department has a responsibility to ensure that its client departments such as police, health, education, as well as local government, to name but a few, have the facilities to undertake their respective constitutional mandate. This extends further to than just buildings, Minister. This includes the state of the building, the maintenance of the building, load shedding interventions like the availability of generators, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and cooling. Chairperson, I highlight these important points to bring closer to home the realities faced by ordinary South Africans on the ground due to the failure of the department to take up its coordinating and enabling role. However, what the department has enabled is the creation of informal settlements on government properties where people live in squalor, far removed from job opportunities, and with absolutely no access to basic services such as running water, sanitation, access roads, and many more. Honorable Minister, the property in Volmansdal in Tshwane has been unlawfully invaded and informal settlement is beginning. Because this does not form part of the City of Tshwane Spatial Development Framework and remains zoned as agricultural land, there is no access to bulk services in the area. The residents are illegally connected to the water pipelines of the military base and Mahalis water and are illegally tapping into various electricity lines. The onus of the provision of the bulk services now falls on the City of Tshwane, who have not budgeted nor planned for this. This is due to the department's inability to protect its properties from illegal occupation. A further example of the department's negligence to protect its properties can be seen at M46 in Waterskloof local municipality here in the Western Cape. Honorable Minister, the land in the area was earmarked for a forestry project which would have seen beneficiaries become not just participants, but also owners of the project. Despite early warnings that land invasions were starting to occur and several court orders to prevent further land invasions, the DPWI failed to bring these under control, and there are now more than 3,000 occupants living in the property. Norfolk-Skral is now undeniably an informal settlement. Once again, we have missed opportunities and instead have people living in abhorrent conditions with no services, no potential to improve their lives because the Department of Forestry and Fisheries has now withdrawn the program. Waterskloof municipality, just like in Tshwane, is being pressurized to formalize the area despite not having neither the resources nor the development plans. While these are large-scale invasions, smaller occupations of DPWI properties are taking place all over the country, and the DPWI seems incapable and disinterested in preventing these. Case in point, Waterloo Green in Wynberg, Western Cape, the property owned by DPWI, has 3 abandoned houses on it, of which 2 are currently occupied by homeless people and criminals. A resident identified one of the occupiers as a person who mugged her. There was a murder on the property and there have been 2 fires. Since the occupation of the property, crime has escalated to such an extent that the local schools have had to hire security guards to protect their learners from muggings. The DPWI has been making empty promises to the residents that the vandalized houses will be demolished and that the security will be upgraded. 18 months since it was first reported, there has been no action taken. Chairperson, because DPWI has lost control over their properties, effectively, they've lost control over their asset base. In terms of their own expropriation bill, the effective loss of control over properties would justify the expropriation thereof without compensation. It's unacceptable that the custodian of government immovable assets has done so little to protect the value of its properties. Furthermore, this negligence has placed the financial burden on local government, which is in the form of an unfunded mandate. The lack of interest that the department demonstrates in preserving the condition of its properties can be highlighted in the case of Raswood Shooting Range in Brett's Northwest. Since 2019, the Marcus Arms Shooting Club has been trying to get permission to lease this property with the permission from DPWI not forthcoming. This is despite the commitment to do the necessary repairs to the property in order to render it fully usable. Important to note, Minister, is that currently the SAPS and Brits have to travel to Potchefstroom, which is 140 kilometers away, to use a shooting range to maintain their mandatory competency. The Real Estate Management Services, a program within the property management trading entity, has a budget allocation of 13.9 billion for the 2023-2024 financial year. And yet it is unable to fulfill its mandate of managing government properties. Your department's buildings are overrun by vandals and homeless people continue to live in squalor. The DA-run Western Cape Department of Infrastructure and the City of Cape Town recently handed over 204 social housing units in Maitland. The project is part of a bigger precinct development called Maitland Metro. The project is part of a bigger precinct development called Maitland Metro, which will deliver more than 1,200 units over the next 8 years. This is but just one of the signature projects under the Western Cape's government infrastructure framework, which will see targeted investment in energy, water, transport, settlement, and ICT. In February, the City of Cape Town Mayor launched a 120 billion portfolio, which is set to form the foundation for economic growth in the city over the next 10 years. This is by far the largest infrastructure investment plan ever announced by any metro in South Africa, with the national government issuing infrastructure plan after infrastructure plan with no discernible action to implement them. The City of Cape Town is on course to increase infrastructure investment by 110% in 3 years. This unprecedented investment will drive economic growth, provide sustainable jobs for Cape Townians, and attract more investment in the region. The DA government don't just talk, they act. And the results are there for all to see. The DA gets things done. You should try it. It works.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Thank you, Honorable Member. No name, the EFF.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me first start by sending greetings to the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the most progressive movement in South Africa and in Africa since the so-called political freedom, the President of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Julius Sello Malema, officials, commissars, ground forces, and supporters. Let me join my colleagues of the EFF in wishing this mighty organization a happy 10th anniversary, despite the false prophets whom said it will never pass another year and that it will die. Despite all doomsayers, this organization has found itself fighting to implement the first cardinal pillar, expropriation of land without compensation for equal distribution. Chairperson, we find ourselves fighting for the return of the land and all property to the custodian of the state to benefit all, despite continuous pleas by EFF. The reality is the Department of Public Works is not ready to do so. Chairperson, the Public Works has gone forth to adopt the expropriation bill that was ill-founded and only benefits the minority privileged in South Africa. The department is the custodian of all property in South Africa, but the department still finds itself wanting and not being able to provide voters with basic infrastructure for schools, hospitals, clinics, exposing them to pit toilets. A department that has led buildings to deteriorate and pose a danger to those occupying them. The maintenance plan that has become so popular on paper, it still has not been implemented. We find a department that is willing to spend 6.1 billion to rent offices for sister departments and receives a revenue of 5.5 billion in leasing out its own state-owned buildings, which is working at the loss. The department where a former minister alluded on an interview that the department considers selling some of its properties as it's difficult to maintain these buildings. With the load shedding affecting the level of service delivered, thus this department decided to equip houses of ministers with generators as if there's anything significant they are doing for South Africans. No wonder a mayor in Mpumalanga can utter nonsensical comments for residents that they do not have fridges. Why do they need electricity? Residents in Kimberley have been exposed to spend money on transport to visit Home Affairs. When it's load shedding, the generator, by the way, the office is rented by Public Works and they are supposed to make sure that the generator lasts. The generator cannot sustain until the end of the load shedding. Mamelodi Magistrates Court construction was delayed due to incompetence of this department by extending the construction without proper consultation, which reminds us of the Beit Brissac. Concerns have been raised pertaining the preventative measures to hold officials accountable. Measures are not sufficient, Minister, nor in place. The question of student accommodation is still giving many students and parents sleepless nights. There are many buildings, Minister, that can be utilized for student accommodation. Maputa Malachi Hospital in Mupani district in Limpopo has been under construction for a new pediatrics ward and a laboratory since 2011 at an original budget of 90 million. Today, this has not been finished, which hampers our people to receive healthcare. We already have a shortage of hospitals. This is a disgrace and a slap in the face of the people of Limpopo. This is only the peak of what we know, not to mention the state of hospitals across the country. We still find entities that work parallel to each other, despite numerous advices by the EFF on how these entities can be integrated and work together to provide infrastructure in South Africa. PMTE is still trying to navigate its way on what its mandate is. Again, Minister, you'll do the same mistake that was done by former ministers of ignoring the role of the IDT in provision and as an implementing agency dealing with infrastructure and rather focus on ISA, KUHA, and DBSA, all those that are not entities of your department. The time has arrived for value for money. The time has arrived for contractors to meet with Agrima SA to expose them to the different building material that is sustainable to the South African weather and that is cost effective. Minister, in your own province, Mzimkhulu Junior Secondary School, there is still asbestos roofing. Senzokuhle Primary School has no classrooms, no toilets. Mzimkhulu Clinic has only one toilet for both staff and patients. And I thought, Minister, you would mention Ukuti, you are going to make land available for our fazi basemkhanyakude, for them to have a place to work in, and then for them to be able, because there are women that are speaking about, they want to produce jam, but they are not given the land to start their business. Despite all the budget that your department presents here, if it's not at the benefit of citizens of this country, then it's a futile exercise and it's a waste of data. For the time that this department is focusing on tenders, many projects will not be finished and there will forever be wasteful expenditure. Like I'm asking myself how much is going to be spent for the gala dinner that we are supposed to attend tonight for networking. It is time this department focuses on service delivery and move away from benefiting the minority elite. The time has arrived for establishment of a construction company which will bring all under one roof. On that note, Minister, we reject the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. I now recognize Honorable Zondo.
Honorable Chairperson, South Africa faces a plethora of challenges daily, ranging from unemployment to poor service delivery and crucial services, such as one offered by this department, are not a privilege, but stand as a legitimate expectation from our people. This department stands as a custodian and a manager of government's immovable assets, including acquisition, maintenance, disposal of said assets. Unfortunately, under its watch, there are still many areas which we call for repair, improvement, and in some instances, complete replacement. To ensure that people's needs are responded to, it is important to highlight a number of areas which we believe need major improvement and intervention from the government. To start off, although crucial decisions and projects are not implemented and or finalized, key positions mostly at management level in departments either stand vacancy or filled by acting staff, which usually result in a loss of institutional memory as well as a break in continuity. There are major security concerns at our small harbors, such as lack of physical security infrastructure, including access gates, security cameras, as well as required security personnel from the harbors, which further expose this infrastructure to vandalism and crime. Although this is the case, no budget has been made available to provide security monitors at these harbors. Budget needed for maintenance to employ skilled personnel to implement these maintenance projects remaining available. In the event that these budgets are readily available, it is common occurrence that these funds are not used for their initial purpose. This often translates to a common situation where available funds are partially used for maintenance or completely unused at all, which result to infrastructure breakdown, which require even a large budget for repair in some instances, completely replaced. While encouraging proactive schedule maintenance in place, such as Robben Island, which employ the government to strengthen security measures, which will include inter alia 24 hours monitoring cameras, armed guard, coordination with South African police services. We also strongly encourage routine patrol for officials of South African national parks and Navy to be considered. To ensure that this department is running efficiency and that the target has set are reached on time, the minister should facilitate an engagement with the Minister of Forestry, Fisheries, and Environmental for some amendments so levels can be revised. The department should ensure that there is a skill development and an employment component is a in small harbors and that collaborate with the local FETs, colleges for skill development. Ungithusile mkhaya wami ukuzikhuluma ngekhukhula ezahlasela KwaZulu-Natal ngesikhathi usenguNdunankulu waKwaZulu-Natal. Ekubeni sizokhumbula ukuthi kwakugcina kunephungane elavela ngesikhathi sakho ukukhulunywa ngendaba zamanzi. Udiza lapha endabeni ukuthi kukhona ongakwenzanga. Ngiyafisa sengathi njengoba usulapha uphinde wathola ithuba ungalisebenzisa ukulungisa isimo esibhekene nabantu bakithi namanje abasahlala emahholo namanje imigwaqo engalungisiwe infrastructure namanje safile edinga ukulungiswa zabantu bakithi impilo zabo ibuyele esimeni. Sinikeze nendawo uhulumeni ukuze akwazi ukwakhela abantu bakithi laba abahlala emahholo abangenazo indawo abanye abashiwa zinhlobo zabo namanje abangazi bethola. Although all these issues have been raised timely and time again, the government has shown a serious disinterest in this addressing them. Our people are heavily related on the department. As a result of this phase, the IFP support this budget. I thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. I now recognize Akbare van Staden.
Honorable Chairperson, the Freedom Front Plus welcomes the Minister's announcement this past weekend that he will launch an investigation regarding suspicious expenses occurred at official residences for use by ministers and deputy ministers. These expenses are not a new occurrence, and we can no longer allow it to continue. 1.4 million for the renovation of a kitchen, 54,000 for curtains, 50 million for fuel for generators, and even worse, the replacement of light bulbs for an amount of 19,000 rand. While South Africans are suffering without electricity, the lights are burning at these residences in Pretoria and Cape Town. While our hospitals are suffering due to the fact that infrastructure is collapsing, these huge amounts are spent on our official residences. While the maintenance of our government buildings are not given the necessary attention, and where this department suffer a huge loss of revenue due to this problem, these huge amounts are spent on official residences. While South African infrastructure is busy collapsing on a huge scale, these amounts that makes no sense at all are being spent on social official residences. While our children must attend school in pitch dark classrooms, these senseless amounts are being spent. While our students must attend dark universities, these amounts are being spent and wasted. While the South African Institution of Civil Engineers Infrastructure Report Card for 2022 found that South Africa's infrastructure is in a crisis and described as at the risk of failing or unfit for purpose, these amounts are being spent on our official residences. While the elderly suffers in old age homes due to the fact that they cannot utilize electricity for their oxygen machines, these senseless amounts are being spent on senseless items. While South Africans has dry taps, these amounts are being spent on official residences. This government needs to sort out its priorities, and we simply cannot continue on this path because of South Africa is suffering and bleeding to death. In the annual performance plan for 23-24, it is indicated that it must be ensured that infrastructure is used as a catalyst to drive economic growth and employment through partnership with the private sector. However, the Freedom Front Plus is of the opinion that this will not be achieved with the current racist laws like affirmative action and broad-based black economic empowerment in place. Get rid of these racist laws and you will see how investments will flow to this country. Get rid of the red tape and allow the private sector to expand, and then you will see economic growth and job creation on a huge scale. Then you will see industry rights on a huge scale. Get rid of expropriation without compensation, then you will see South Africa rise as the best country in the world to live in. Fraud and corruption has already taken its toll in the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. The Beitbridge border scandal, the Causey Bay border scandal, the scandal relating to COVID-19 procurements, and the list go on. Until today, we have not seen anyone jailed for these corrupt activities. Since the establishment of Infrastructure South Africa in November 2019, but is supposed to be steered by the Minister of Electricity, Dr. Ramaphosa, we have not seen any positive contributions that this new entity has made towards the upgrading, refurbishment of buildings of new infrastructure across the country. South Africa is in dire need of new hospitals and clinics, new schools, new port buildings, new police stations, new railways, new border fencing, new roads, new electricity infrastructure, houses for the poor, water and sanitation, new dams and bridges, and the list goes on. Our harbors are certainly not up to standard and needs urgent attention. In the words of this department's own annual performance plan for 23-24, the challenge is the availability of robust, credible, and bankable project pipelines. The allocation for infrastructure projects for 24 departments is welcome, as we simply cannot afford that our government buildings fall into decay on a daily basis. The South African taxpayer cannot afford this, and this government must see to it that this problem is resolved on an urgent basis. The maintenance of government buildings and the lack of an effective maintenance program is an area of great concern. The lack of assets management results in no safeguarding of assets being abandoned and looters stripping these assets. This is not just a loss in revenue for this department, but also for the South African taxpayer. The outstanding rent owed by client departments places a further burden on this department, and the taxpayer must bear the cost at the end of the day. Achtbare minister, u is 'n nuwe minister in die portefeulje. Ons verwelkom u so, maar ek hoop regtig van harte dat u in staat sal wees om al hierdie krisis te wat ons infrastruktuur in Suid-Afrika dit kan oplos. Baie dankie.
Baie dankie, achtbare lid. As I call upon Honorable Train, I'm also going to invite Vice Chairperson Kaso to take over. Over to you, Honorable Train.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. The ACDP asserts that much can be said about this department regarding the challenges that it faces at, for example, Telkom Towers procurement process and the SIU investigation into corruption at the 85.7 million Jersey barrier wall tender in Jozini. Time, however, does not permit to go through all of these challenges. The ACDP has repeatedly said that the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is the largest property owner in the country, yet produces some of the poorest outcomes in this area, particularly when compared to the private sector. If properly managed and run, this department could be less financially dependent on the taxpayer as it leverages on its property base. As set out in the Government Immovable Asset Management Act, GIAMA of 2007, the Public Works Department and Public Works and Infrastructure is mandated to be the custodian and portfolio manager of government's immovable assets. However, from 2012 to date, PMTE has been unable to fully implement Occubus, which is the development of a comprehensive asset register, a requirement from the Auditor General. It is incomprehensible how this department or any organization can function effectively without knowing exactly what it owns, opening the doors for corruption and hijacking of government buildings. While the ACDP acknowledges the work done by the expanded public works program in creating work opportunities with its budget of some 3 billion rand in program 3, we have also consistently, as the ACDP said, that this needs to be translated to meaningful, permanent jobs for the millions of unemployed South Africans. Let's take plumbing, for example. There are about 120,000 untrained people in South Africa who call themselves plumbers, but only 20,000 of them are qualified. The Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is mandated to address the lack of technical skills and management capacity, and properly skilled, qualified plumbers are desperately needed in South Africa. The ACDP has become aware of the lack of coordination of the different departments to work together and implement some simple but crucial actions. Together, today, the housing projects intended for the 3 underutilized military airports in Cape Town, which could provide homes for some 67,000 households, is mired in the apparent between the Department of Public Works, Human Settlements, Defense, and the Housing Development Agency. Yeah, Minister, is a project to implement and provide housing, low-cost housing to our residents. However, it is apparent that the red tape reduction program of the President is moving at a snail's pace because of challenge of policy red tape. The ACDP cares, and let's provide solutions to our citizens. Thank you.
The next speaker is Deputy Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure.
Honorable Chair and honorable members of the committee, We are called upon to create a department which is at the core of the capable state. We therefore need a public works and infrastructure department that is not famous for ministerial perks, inexplicable delays in unrolling and building public infrastructure, or dilapidating state buildings. DPWI lies at the heart of public infrastructure, from prison cells to hospital wards. DPWI oversees the Extended Public Works Program, an important program which provides relief to the citizenry, especially the unemployed in our country. EPWP is capable of providing short-term relief through work opportunities in various sectors. These work opportunities ensure that participants are skilled whilst they get a stipend. As of the 17th of May, 2023, 990,686 work opportunities against a target of 1,023,569. This translates to 97 achievements against the target for the 2022-2023 financial year. The EPWP is currently on track to achieve its 5 years target of 5 million work opportunities. EPWP has contributed 12.924 billion in wages over the past financial year, positively impacting lives of unemployed and poor households in local communities. This model is gaining skills as they earn income. Others are encouraged to start cooperatives and SMMEs that will be supported through our preferential procurement policies. These enterprises become employers to assist the state in tackling poverty and unemployment. The program also aims to address the scarce critical skills required by an economy through training. Some of these skills that were provided in this past financial year were the National Certificate in Roads Construction in the Eastern Cape, National Certificate in Landscaping in Mpumalanga, financial literacy through the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. The public bodies that report to the EPWP provided 40,252 training opportunities in the 4 EPWP sectors. 8,250 work opportunities were created for youth through the National Youth Service as implemented by public bodies at the different spheres of government. The Vugupile Learnership Program has provided work to 87 contractors to improve their capacity to implement projects through labor-intensive models. Honorable members, on governance, the department has developed an EPWP policy which was approved by Cabinet in August 2022 for gazetting and public consultation. The DPWI, supported by the provincial branches, hosted countrywide EPWP policy consultations, roadshows, oral submissions from various stakeholders on crafting and redefinement of public works in the future. The EPWP branch has been analyzing the inputs received to incorporate into the EPWP policy, which is expected to be finalized within this financial year. EPWP Phase 4 is in its last year of implementation, and the DPWI is currently undertaking a midterm budget review of this phase, evaluating the progress of the business plan to date, performance against set objectives, targets, strategies, and implementation modalities chosen, efficiency and efficacy of institutional arrangements, constraints, opportunities, and corrective actions needed for the EPWP to achieve maximum impact. Findings of the review will inform the formulation of recommendations for the enhanced implementation of the current phase in the coming months, as well as the design and planning of the next phase that is to start in the 2024-2025 financial year. EPWP is celebrating 20 years of existence this year, and there will be various activities to commemorate this milestone in the form of roadshows to visit and showcase legacy projects that have been endured across various sectors. DPWI oversees the Council of the Built Environment, a statutory body established by the Council for the Built Environment, Act 2000. In the first financial year, CBE received a clean audit with no material findings. The CBE remains focused on enhancing good governance and sound financial management and sound internal controls. The program by the CITP has been effective from April 2021. It is the first mass-scale development initiative for the South African construction industry. The program supports skill development and professionalization and enterprise development. As our minister announced recently, 8 billion will be set aside for enterprise development. We're implementing the directive of His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address for our nation to put 30,000 artisans in training this year as follows. Approximately 1,000 contractors will receive development support per year. Public sector contracts, 450 million will be spent on workplace training per year, whilst 10,000 learning opportunities will be provided per year to EFT learners and artisans, and 1,000 learning opportunities will be provided to candidates per year. The progress for the amendment of the CITB Act 38 of 2000 will be advanced through enforcing mechanisms, expanding the CITB registration services, and enhancing the role of private sector in the development of the construction industry. Agreement South Africa is responsible for the alternative construction methods, ensuring that new and innovative construction materials which are safe, durable, and meet the required standards. The entity provides a voluntary certification service for non-standardized construction product systems and components. During the 2022-23 financial year, ASA spent 11 million on level 1 BBBE SMMEs in the response of economy recovery and reconstruction plan. ASA plans to spend 30% of its total procurement spend on SMME falling under the designated group. As of the 31st of March 2023, ASA had spent 6.4 million on designated groups. Also in support of the DPWI Green Building Policy, the organization has nearly spent 4 million in developing specifications for the eco-labeling scheme. After its near collapse 2 years ago, the IDT again is showing a great deal of potential. 45 projects were completed during the period under review breakdown in performance. That's of the 45 new infrastructure facilities completed against the annual target of 21, equaling 86 performance level. 27 of the 45 facilities were either upgraded, renovated, or rehabilitated against a target of 25 non-greenfield social infrastructure facilities completed, equaling a 108 performance level. Late transfer of funds by and the devastating floods in large parts of KwaZulu-Natal led to the challenging performance. 96 new contractors out of a target of 60 were placed on the panel of contractors for the contractor development program. Of these 44% are women contractors out of a target of 40 women contractors, and 39% are youth out of an annual target of 30 youth contractors. In the year ahead, the IDT will do more to ensure that people and persons living with disabilities also participate and benefit from our economic empowerment programs. EPWP non-stand sector program contributed 770 million to the BBBE spend, which increases the total percentage of expenditure to 69%. EPWP exceeded its target, creating a total of 109,871 work opportunities through the NNS program against an annual target of 64,000 work opportunities. Expenditure trends over the past 3 financial years indicate that for 2022-23 is higher than that of the past 3 financial years. Total program expenditure achieved by the 4th quarter of the 2022 financial year is 3.509 billion, below the targeted 5.27 billion. The Prestige Accommodation Portfolio. The department is the custodian of the Prestige residential accommodation, as well as the provision of movable assets like furniture and movable structures of state events, among other clients, including the President, the Deputy President, and members of the executive committees. We carry the mandate to ensure that all clients occupying these residences are housed safely and their needs are addressed. The department is we call upon all South Africans to join the department and play their part in restoring our value of Ubuntu and ending patriarchy and sexism, and to create a South Africa that does not leave the vulnerable behind. South Africa works because of public works. God bless Africa. God bless South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you very much, all the honorable members. The next speaker is Honorable Matebu. House Chair, the Minister, Deputy Minister, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, our Chief Whip, our Whip, who's part of this meeting, however, she's virtual. Members of Parliament, House Chair, this budget vote occurs at the dawn of the country reaching 30 years of democracy in next year. While apartheid left majority of people in a state of poverty, inequality, unemployment, and economic exclusion, it was to the democratic government to correct the historical injustice of the past. This occurs with minimal fiscal resources, as the democratic ANC had to deal with apartheid debt first, while effecting social programs such as building nearly 5 million houses and electrifying 6 million homes. The ANC government programs seek to ensure that there is transformation in the lives of the people. It is important that at this point, we are able to balance it, we are able in a balanced manner to measure our success and challenges to ensure that we are able to strengthen the successes and deal with challenges to effect transformation in the country. For the ANC, transformation of the lives of the majority is a fundamental principle, and it will not be replaced by the status quo of the apartheid past. There has been much progress recorded by the African National Congress government in the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, and there are equally challenges which government has to deal with, as reflected in the budget vote report. The budget is an instrument of transformation, and this budget vote and the programs under the department reflect priorities of the African National Government, of the African National Congress government, to ensure that there is qualitative improvement of the lives of the people. Therefore, it is imperative that the departmental programs and performance plans of the entities which have been allocated a budget in this financial year achieve their deliverables from programs to positively impact on the lives of our people. A critical program developed by the ANC government was in the Extended Public Works Program. This program was created to reverse the effects of poverty, unemployment among working class and poor communities. Is carried out through the entities, provinces, and municipalities. This program provides opportunities to unemployed people who are not necessarily able or skilled to find employment. It therefore provides an income and skills to poor households which may not otherwise have an income. It is the difference between falling into poverty or being given a handout. Over the 5 years, the program has met its target of employing nearly 1 million people per annum, and it will meet its medium-term strategic framework target of creating 5 million work opportunities for our people, Year 7's African National Congress. This is certainly an achievement worth celebrating as of the 30th anniversary of the democracy, as we have a major portion of the budget dedicated to social wage to improve the lives of the majority of the people of South Africa. In addition to the EPWP and the EPWP as the component of the budget, it has commenced with skilling programs to artisans. Currently, this is a small program which requires gaining further funding for expansion. This program is a skilling program and trains artisans in important service sector skills. It has trained people in hairdressing
electricians, plumbers, mechanics, and many other professions through an agreement with Netlect or at Netlect. Recently, 9 trained artisans in a motor mechanics and auto mechanical electricals were placed for work at Isuzu manufacturer for 9 months on probation, and they were absorbed into a permanent workforce. Those that are skilled are now able to start small, medium enterprise in local communities as part of development of township economy. It is important that Public Works is able to guide these trained people and artisans to small business development to obtain assistance for the creation of SMEs and vocations. A house chair, this is a social delivery. This is called improving the lives of people, and this program must be strengthened. In this financial year, the department must achieve more with less through impactful spending on this program. As job creation is a critical component of the ANC government program, it should seek synergies with various sectors and presidential employment stimulus package to ensure that maximum amount of training and jobs are created. Since its inception, the Independent Development Trust has engaged in a social infrastructure and social development projects, which include schools, clinics, community centers, community libraries, and these occur in predominantly rural areas in all our provinces in the country. For an example, the IDT developed the Hainas Maternity and EMS facility in the Northern Cape, which serves the needs of mothers and those people who are in need of emergency and medical services. This is a facility which is needed by the community and which did not exist previously. In Limpopo, the IDT developed the Sleteng Community Library, which was needed by the community, especially students which did not previously exist, as well as we all know well what Fairwood said about education of the Black population. In KwaZulu-Natal, the IDT has developed a number of schools and worked with Youth Development Center. The IDT over a number of years experienced financial challenges due to donor funding, drying up an entity's inability to collect client fees, which caused a decline in the institution. In the financial year of 2019-2020, the executive withdrew the entity strategic plan and as well as the IPP to that year, for that year. Our budget vote report details the role of the portfolio committee in wanting to save this important infrastructure development entity. As it says, in the budget vote report of 2020-2021, this portfolio committee resisted these attempts and constantly requested that updated plans to transform and restructure rather than to dissolve this entity. This was based on a firm belief that the IDT has an important social infrastructure mandate that must be delivered. The portfolio committee also continued to apply the pressure that personnel that were employed and released unfairly in that period had to be reinstated in the organizational structure or reimbursed for financial loss. There must be an impactful spending by the department and ensure that every rand counts. Government should not be overcharged for procurement of goods and services. Corruption has no place in our society, and those who commit acts of corruption must face the full might of the law. As the ANC component, we do support this budget vote 13 of Public Works. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Honorable Sheikh.
Thank you, Chairperson. And thank you very much. The National Freedom Party will support the budget vote tabled here today. Having said that, Minister, and I think you're still familiarizing yourself with this department, there has been concerns raised by different departments about the performance of public works. Now, one of the concerns I have is that very small.
There's a complaint about the lights there. Yes.
Yeah, one of the concerns I have is about a very small facility controlled by public works. That's the parliamentary building. And I'm talking specifically about the Acacia. And the abuse that takes over that building, Acacia, where members let these premises out. Anybody and everybody has access to the building. And I know that the public works, they attempted to do something in order to see who is maybe there, because during a recess meeting, there are more people there than people. So I think it's something, but at the end of the day, taxpayers are paying for that. The other concern we have is, Minister, Chairperson, telecom towers. How is it that we are paying 14 million rand for a premise that we not even used? 14 million rand. That is what-
Chair, we can't hear. We can't hear.
Oh,
No.
you can raise your voice.
Oh, okay. Well, normally I don't need a mic, but I don't know, so I'm complaining with that. Now, the other problem is just that, you know, the maintenance of the building under the Fisheries Department. For a long period of it, we find that it's been deteriorating and very little or nothing like this. Now, I'm not sure whether it is the departments that should, you know, also take some responsibility. But my understanding is that it falls directly under public works. Public works should do. The other thing is this, when we've traveled abroad, particularly in the SADC region, there were indications that the South African government owns a whole lot of buildings that is being deserted. And that it did not form part of our asset register. And I said on numerous occasions that we look into this. Because they showed us some of the buildings, particularly some of these SADC that we've been to. So I think that's another thing that we need to look at. I don't know what happened, and this is a very important point. We were advised that just before the 1994 election, there was a whole lot of properties that were disposed of by the apartheid government, and documentation was destroyed so that we could not track it. And I want to plead with you, Minister, to have a look at that and see where are these properties, who are the key beneficiaries that benefited from the South African properties that were disposed of just before the elections. I think it is very important. The National Freedom Party will support this budget. Thank you.
The next speaker is Honorable Quickly.
House Chair, the vision of the DPWI is to be a trusted choice for innovative asset management, quality infrastructure delivery, and sustained economic growth. Its mission is to provide strategic direction and quality services that offer innovative and proactive socio-economic infrastructure delivery and the maintenance of public assets while protecting the environment and the cultural and historic heritage of this country. Lofty ideals, beautiful words, until you realize that we live in South Africa and the ANC government is in charge of this department for now. And such lofty ideals are impossible because of cadre deployment, rampant corruption, lackluster, and even MIA leadership, hallmarks of the DPWI. So endemic is the level of distrust in the DPWI that the government doesn't trust the DPWI with the reconstruction of its own rebuilding of the parliamentary precinct that was gutted by a preventable fire had the recommendations of the legendary BDO report not languished on the desk of the then minister for 12 months. The DPWI has the potential to be a powerhouse of job creation, large-scale infrastructure projects and maintenance contracts. But aside from the obvious inability of this another night of candles government's challenge of keeping the lights on, the need to deploy cadres and to employ only ANC members have rendered many of these SIPs mere vehicles through which to finance the ANC's 2024 election campaign. The DPWI has a massive budget of almost 9 billion rand for the 2023-2024 budget year. One of my primary concerns lies in Programme 2's target of the immovable asset register, the bane of every budget speech I have ever had the privilege to deliver, because it never seems to be completed or audited. Without an audited IAR, very little of the pipe dream can be accomplished, as the DPWI cannot implement its own Government Immovable Asset Management Act, and therefore it cannot apportion land for the building of schools, police stations, hospitals, or clinics. It cannot appropriately lease buildings to client apartments or repair buildings it owns before they fall into such a state of disrepair that they are of no further use to anyone. And they can also not prevent the destruction of heritage buildings, like the glass houses that once proudly stood on the grounds of the Union Buildings, home to the veterinary services of Gauteng and Noda's Vrede House. All that remains are a shell indicating where the building once stood and a name board with a non-existent telephone number, a pile of rubbish in the Union Building Gardens, a national key point, a tourist attraction, a crying shame. In general, the CIDB is performing well. One of the greatest barriers to success, though, is the failure of the DPWI to provide a timeline by which the Public Works Bill, the CIDB and the CBE amendment bills will be tabled before Parliament. Another is the lack of will to address road contractors or cadres who are awarded tenders, disappear before the project is completed, or whose work is unsatisfactorily done and then disappear, but get paid for their work, only to reappear under another name and get another tender. But ordinary citizens are denied valuable work opportunities, essential construction projects, and EPWP workers lose their payments. A crying shame, a pitiful lack of caring. The CBE appears to be addressing its vacancy deficits. How well remains to be seen. The word transformation overwhelms everything, but we wait to see it in practice. But while transformation is vital, upskilling and professionalism is even more so. And this must be accomplished through appropriate policy and regulation promulgation. Built environment professionals feel marginalized. They don't feel heard. They feel intimidated by leadership and a system that they say has failed them. This needs to be guarded against and representative policies created that acknowledge professional skills appropriately. The shining light in the DPWI is Agrimar SA, the certifier of innovative building technologies and techniques. They have just launched an eco-labeling system that is a first in South Africa, and they need to be congratulated. Their work is lauded across the world, but sadly, not in South Africa. We have a national parliament to rebuild. It needs to be done, and Agrimar SA has wonderful green eco-labeling, friendly eco-solutions that have to be considered. But the minister and the DPWI don't even consider their products. What a crying shame, what a tragedy, and what a slap in the face to Agrimar SA. In 2024, when the DA is in government, these lofty ideals will be a reality, not a pipe dream. I thank you.
next speaker is Honorable Mashele.
Mutsamu wa xitulu, timembara ta Palamende ya Republic ya South Africa, Minister na Deputy Minister of Department of Public Works, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Public Works, citizens of our country, good afternoon. House Chair, the democratic breakthrough of 1994 brought about much needed political change and freedom to the people of this country. However, the victims of apartheid regime were confronted with the historical injustice of the past and the struggle against structural challenges of poverty, inequality, unemployment, and the historical economic exclusion. Since the ushering of democracy in 1994, the ANC-led government implemented programs of transformation to improve the quality of the life of our people. While political freedom enabled government to widen the base of opportunities, it is also at the same time had to deal with reversing the historical challenges of the past. The ANC have declared this year as the year of decisive action to advance the people's interest and the renewal of the people's movement. It is to this theme that I wish to dedicate the focus of this budget vote 18 of public works and infrastructure. Transformation is not a single moment, but a process. Its success and challenge is a fundamental part of the process. This is fundamentally where the ANC differs with these ones on my left. It is evident clear that some of the opposition parties will prefer the status quo, while the African National Congress seeks to reverse the historical injustice of the past and improve the quality of the life of our people. The budget vote on public works and infrastructure assesses the performance of the department on 5 programs, which are critical towards ensuring that the service delivery becomes possible through these programs and their entities. This budget vote is also about infrastructure development through the implementation of ERRP. Part of the infrastructure development of the department is that of small harbors. Coastal communities outside the major urban centers have economic difficulties due to the lack of investment, and being able to access ocean economy will improve the standards of the life of these people. Small harbor development has been gazetted as CIP21. An amount of 501 million is allocated to this financial year for the restoration and the development of these small harbors. In this financial year, it is important that small harbors of Port St. John's, Port Alfred be developed, including small harbors in KZN, the Northern Cape, as there are unproclaimed harbors. This is important for the development of rural villages, small towns, rural municipalities that requires local economic development to ensure job creation. A new small harbors will create jobs in the fishing, processing, harbor management, and maintenance. In the existing 12 harbors in the Western Cape, there has been investment and upgrading of facilities which have created job opportunities for the local people. At the same time, there are a number of challenges which must be dealt with in terms of the security of these facilities and the personnel which operates these harbors. Criminal elements that have intimidated harbor personnel and destroy harbor infrastructure must be dealt with. These facilities should be protected for the benefit of the communities, and we cannot allow lawlessness to hijack and slow down development. The department and PMTE under which development of small harbors falls must work with law enforcement agencies to eliminate these tags from this important infrastructure. PMTE needs to develop a strategy and business plan for leasing of properties around small harbors at market-related prices, which is fair to business development to collaborate rather than the evergreen month-to-month contracts which they enjoy. It is imperative that in this financial year, significant improvement of revenue of PMTE be recorded. This will act as a measure of increasing value for the property portfolio of government. The entities under the department in the form of Council for Built Environment, Construction Industry Development Board, Agrima SA were created for specific purposes and need to operate on their mandate. Over the years, these entities have built the necessary skills and capabilities which should be harnessed for government construction programs. Registration of professionals is an important part of work of these councils. Efforts must be made in that regard to fix the concern raised by the portfolio committee of transforming these bodies. Agrima South Africa continues to provide innovative product certification for SMMEs and contribute immensely towards economic growth and job creation in South Africa. Given the current electricity crisis, it is important that PMTE through Agrima South Africa begins a process of greening government properties through alternative energy and other innovative green technologies. It is important that there is an impactful and qualitative spending in the implementation of government priorities and programs. Communities on the ground need to feel and see the impact of these budget allocations, Honorable Minister. At the commencement of the sixth administration, this department and its entities have had many challenges, including corruption, maladministration, weak corporate governance, and financial controls in the entities. This has begun to change with greater levels of stability in staffing at senior management positions with the required skills, and there's always a room for further improvement. Most entities have functional boards and management structures. They must now focus on getting clean audits and aid the ANC government program for the benefit of the people of our country. When Minister Dlil was still the minister in his portfolio and making progress to improve the functioning of the department and its entities, it was not difficult to detect job rates on the part of these ones. They criticized the minister rather than criticizing those things that needs to be corrected and hold the minister accountable in Parliament. The new minister has already been in the portfolio while trying to come to grip with the extent of the work required. Is already criticized by the opposition parties for making a comment that there's a budget for small harbors and not being with the committee on its oversight. This is singularly unhelpful to play the person than the ball. Honorable members, through the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, the ANC-led government will demonstrate that government can successfully be a creator and enabler for jobs. We remain committed to create quality and sustainable jobs for the people of South Africa. It is for this reason that the ANC supports the budget vote 13 on public works and infrastructure. The so-called government in waiting must continue to be in waiting because our people will continue to entrust the people's movement with the government of the infrastructure to continue bettering the lives of our people. Those who parade their racist agenda here in the Western Cape must take a chill pill. Watch the ANC build a united, prosperous, progressive South Africa. The commander of hooliganism with his blessers in green must calm his people and marshal them to support the people's budget. The epitome of white supremacy commanded by the fundamental racists must support the budget of our people. Two important issues that should be noted here. There is an unholy marriage of those slave queens in red, followed by their blessers in green. Their combination is just a bomb to explode. South Africans must never allow. South Africans must never allow.
Chairperson.
Point of order, thank you, House Chairperson.
What is the point of order?
House Chairperson, I feel like the speaker in the
What is
podium,
point of order?
is saying that members are slave queen parliamentary. Is not saying, is not parliamentary. And he must not even try to be clever about it. We are the only people who are wearing red in this in this parliament.
Honorable member, you have raised a point of order. How we to vote. That's not parliamentary. You withdraw that.
Those that are in red as slave queens.
Can you please withdraw the slave queen?
I withdraw, Chair.
Thank you.
On a point of order,
Proceed,
Chairperson,
proceed. No, you can't conduct the meeting.
I apologize,
I've just
Chairperson.
ruled now.
Yes, you have, but I still have another point of order.
No, can't allow that. That's not allowed. Continue.
Chairperson, it is wrong for this member to refer to slay queens.
Honorable.
This is a problem. You come here and you call your own people slay queens.
Member,
It is the problems that we're facing in this country. Young women are being called slay queens, and this man is promoting this word here in parliament.
Honorable member.
Throw him out.
That's what I'll do. Can I allow you to proceed?
Thank you very much. I think it have hit home. Honorable Minister, you must know that the enemies of the progress in South Africa will always have a problem with development. Your enemies will always accuse you of causing dust, even if you dance in the water. Honorable Chair, the people's budget should be supported by all those that are progressive. Thank you very much.
You have 2 minutes added. You have 2 minutes more.
Oh, thank you.
Over. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I cannot conclude this debate without thanking the Asset Forfeiture Unit and the SIU for the work they've done in ensuring that they investigate all properties that have been stolen from the department. And this is one area that we're still going to continue, bring back properties of government, including those that were disposed before. Honorable Chair, the expropriation bill will be finalized in the last quarter of this financial year. During this year, we will ensure that it is canvassed and brought back and finalized. The construction industry development bill has been consulted, and we were advised to seek two consultation, one with the National Treasury and one with Justice and Constitutional Development, and that have been done, and we're finalizing their input. The update of the Public Works Bill will also be consulted with the stakeholders during the year 2023-24. May I remark on a few things said earlier? Honorable Hickling, you made a mistake of issuing a statement and then tell your colleague, Honorable Siahlolo, that we have been with you in the portfolio committee. Now, the fact that portfolio committees are held virtually allow even those who log in and go to sleep to pretend as if they are in attendance. If you attend, you log in and you go to sleep, don't come here and make that our business. It's your own business. Last week, we had a very good engagement in the portfolio committee. We will have engagement tomorrow. I take this opportunity, Honorable Suisa. Thanks for your contribution you made. Unfortunately, your researchers are not well informed. Umzimkulu Clinic was refurbished in 2018. The women in Umkanyawood, when we were there, were given a number of support. Those are women who were given from implements to facilities, even transportation. They are now supplying all boxer and all shops wholesalers there. And if you talk just a minute, these are among areas where
let's not round this.
these are among areas where the ANC-led government has delivered a factory that process amarula. So you can't speak like this. The only point that we may take Of course, we are paying attention to IDT. And IDT will continue to be an implementing agent of choice for us as
Honorable member. Honorable member. Honorable member, can I take you out of the meeting?
Call him with,
Out-
call her with a name. Mkhuphe emva
Eh,
kwakho.
Please, honorable members. Unfortunately, I couldn't call her by her name. And once I do that, I will take her out. So we are collecting that. Otherwise, we are, I don't know what you are doing. Proceed, honorable.
On a point of order.
and Honorable.
No, it can't
House
be you.
Chairperson, on a point of order, we're being
It-
insulted.
It can't be you.
It can't be me, why not?
Oh, I'm saying I'm looking for your name now. You are disrupting the meeting.
I'm not disrupting the meeting. I am here and we're being insulted and I'm calling a point of order, Chair.
In fact, when you were speaking, honorable member, I'm chairing here. I'm saying I'm not recognizing you.
Okay, can you recognize me, Chair? It is my
No.
right to be recognized. When that
No,
member is
no,
calling
I
us
will-
slave
I
queens,
will not
with things
recognize.
coming this side and outside, that's why we're
No,
not
I will
listening.
not, because of what you have done before. I will not recognize.
I wonder what the rule is.
I think,
Proceed.
thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Van Staden, I thank you for your humility and the manner in which you have engaged. I, however, want to engage with you. The problem we have in South Africa is that those who were oppressed have accepted and want to build a new South Africa, which is truly non-racial. Where we are, it is not because we like to have an affirmative action. Affirmative action is as a result of 342 years of oppression that was imposed on blacks. Affirmative action oppressed women as blacks, affected women as women, and oppressed women at work. And therefore, we're not going to compromise. We are correcting the historical injustice which was perpetuated by the apartheid regime. Now, don't come here. I think we will plead with you to accept that in South Africa, there was once colonialism and there was apartheid. And the two systems worked against blacks and Africans in particular. Now, I think there is a view about entities. All entities are going to be attended and given support. And they are going to be supported, including IDT. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
The chairperson.
Thank you. That concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary. The mini plenary will now rise.